kind of interchangeably. So you'll see networks in some documentation, you'll see VPC or virtual private cloud in others, but they're all talking about the same thing. And your VPC is your company or your personal section of the Google Cloud environment, is your private space inside the public cloud environment, which means that you can feel confident in the resources that you are creating and the data that you are storing there, that no one has access to it except you and those you grant access. So a nice little protected space. The VPCs, also referred to as networks in Google documentation, allow you to create and manage your resources, to connect your resources to each other and to the internet. Within the VPCs, you do have subnets. You do use firewall rules to make sure that only certain traffic can come in or out, and you can create routes to specify certain traffic to certain destinations. Now, this is where Google VPCs diverge from other cloud providers, because those concepts are exactly the same across all the cloud providers. This is the really big one. Google VPCs are global, which means you can have one VPC and then you have a subnet in Iowa, a subnet in London, a subnet in Tokyo, a subnet in Sydney, all within the same network, the same VPC. This is really useful if you are a global company. It means you don't have to worry about connecting lots of different regional VPCs because the VPCs are global. So the way that our system works in Google, and I'm going to do my absolutely flawless squares. The way that I draw is essentially just squares. So my VPC is a global resource. It spans the entire world. Then inside that, I have my subnets. So far, so normal, so standard. Except this subnet is London, this subnet is Iowa, and this subnet is Tokyo. All inside the same VPC. Inside the subnets, from a physical perspective, because a subnet is a regional resource, we obviously have our zones. Let's just call them A, B, and C. The physical locations of our resources. So VPCs are global, subnets are regional, and our zones exist inside the subnets, inside the region. Now, because the VPC is global, what this gives us is a really easy way for our resources in London to privately communicate with our resources in Iowa, and our resources in Iowa to privately communicate with our resources in Tokyo. If we are a global company, we are now just using the Google private network to communicate internally using that standard network connections, essentially. Another thing that differs, because the Google VPCs are global, we do not assign the CIDR range at the VPC level. The CIDR ranges, the network addresses, the IP addressing, that is done at the subnet level. Okay, this is where you specify your IP addresses, which means inside the same VPC, you could have a subnet that starts with 172.31, you could have a subnet that starts with 10.10, and you could have a subnet that starts with 192.168, blah, 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 blah. All in the same VPC. They can communicate with each other totally fine. but they do not have to sit within the same CIDR range that is the case with other cloud providers. So just be mindful of that when it comes to networking. That's the huge difference. Okay. So let's go back to my arrow, back to my slides. So here's one with slightly fewer colors in. But this is our VPC. The gray section here, that is our entire VPC spanning the world. Then we've got two different subnets. We've got the Asia East one and the US East one, subnets within the same VPC environment, and then resources that can communicate with each other across zones and across regions, because they're all inside the same network. Remember, you're assigning your IP addressing at a subnet level, at a regional level. Okay. Really easy to facilitate communication with inside the Google Cloud Network. So we'll come back to some networking segments just here, but let's look at our virtual machines. Our virtual machines are the main resource, not the only, but the main resource that we're probably going to be running inside our networks. Virtual machines, they're what caused the cloud to be born, essentially. We're running all of these servers, and then we found a way to virtualize them, and then someone said, why don't we get someone else to be in charge of the hardware? That sounds like a good idea. Now, Google, I love Google's naming conventions because they have just named it the service. VPC networks, great. We're not faffing around with that name. Compute engine, great. There's no convoluted name for these. It's just compute engine. This is a service that deals with the compute, creates yourself your virtual machines. So compute engine, that is the virtual machine service, and it allows you to create and run your VMs on Google programmatically in the console, however you like to interact with them, using an infrastructure as code deployment, however you like. Each virtual machine has the power of a fully fledged operating system. You can choose the operating system, Linux or Windows. That's pretty much it. It's mostly Linux. But if you've got like a Windows server that you want to run, totally fine. When you are creating your virtual machines, you will specify how much CPU and RAM you want. And the virtual machines are really flexible. You can choose the way that you want to create them. Are you using an SDK? Are you creating some software that's going to interact with Google services? Or are you just doing it in the console? Are you doing it programmatically? Do you want Linux or Windows? And how are you going to build this resource? So let's just have a look at how we create an instance. I am in the compute engine service. Remember, you can look at the hamburger menu and scroll through to find compute engine, or you can type it in the search bar, but I was already here. On the sidebar, there is this can stay out if you wish. I like a little bit more screen real estate, especially when I'm teaching, because I make the text really big. And you can just hide that away, get it out of the way if you want a bit more screen space. I want to go to my virtual machines. Now, I have one stopped instance. So this is not costing me any money because it's stopped. It's not doing anything. But let's create a new one. I'm going to create an instance. Click on this lovely, great big blue button.